Hi guys, Ryu here, and let's continue with our modeling. Now we're gonna create some screw to fit it into all these tiny holes, right? So let's grab a cylinder, and now I'm thinking that maybe 32 is too many. 30 should do. It's probably still too many, but should be okay. Go to top view and make it a little bit smaller. And what we need is another cylinder. So we need one more, and this one's gonna be 6. All right, so change it to 6 and make it a bit smaller. Let's see. Now let's bring it up, let's bring it above, and let's grab this one, and in fact grab both of them, and auto smooth and shade smooth. Okay, and let's actually, this one we didn't actually scale it, or we did scale it, so let's apply scale, and also I need to enable the keys again. There you go. And let's actually chamfer it, so Control B and chamfer it, not too much, just a bit. Also this is way too deep, so GG and make it flat. It doesn't have to be, you know, very wide, because we will not see the back of it. In fact, if you want, you could remove this this face to save some geo, but it doesn't really matter that much. I mean, we're not gonna be optimizing it for gaming, so in this case doesn't really matter. Now we need to add some loop cuts in here. So a simple way of doing it simply will be selecting all these faces and subdividing them. We don't need actually the horizontal one, so we can remove it. Where is it? Here. And we need these, right? So let's select these and like that. With all these edges selected, right? Turn this path through. Go to orthographic and simply scale it, okay? If it doesn't work, let's bring a cursor to select it and then scale it on cursor, okay? There we go. Create something like this. And now what we're gonna do is Shift G and direction and go to orthographic again. Oh, wait a minute, let's do this again. Scale it on cursor, but press Shift Z. There we go, that's much better. Now Shift G direction and go here. Control B and let's bevel this like that. Alright. And now let's simply cut it, so Control minus. And there is your screw. So we're going to apply this, right? And grab this one, change the individual origins and scale it in. And now what we're gonna do is actually add a bevel to it. You don't really have to add a bevel if you don't want to. It's gonna add a lot of geo. I will add a bevel because reasons, but you really don't need it. Angle, what you could do, right? You could go with one segment, okay? So with literally one segment bevel, add weighted normals, and this will actually bevel it beautifully. In fact, you know, if your PC struggles with the geo count, you could change all these bevels that have weighted normals, all these pieces, right? All of them that have weighted normals running on, you can actually switch to 3, from 3 to 1, and there's going to be literally almost no difference, right? And it's going to decrease the amount of geo quite dramatically, actually. So something to consider. But anyway, we got our screw going on, right? So let's actually remove this cutter to cutters. And let's see, we got only bevel and weighted normals, right? So we're all good. What we could do actually is create another chamfer in here, but I don't think it's really necessary, but you know. So anyway, now we're gonna use this one to as a screw for a gun. So simply grab it with G and Control G and snap it to a surface. Make it smaller, and now we have to insert it into all these holes. So Control G and snap it to the surface. And just manually, you know, put it in. You can use Control G to snap it again. And make sure you're in orthographic mode, yeah. You don't have to be super accurate, but Now the depth is important. Cannot be too deep, cannot be too shallow. This is, you know, too far away. This will be too deep. Kind of like, you know, reasonable depth, okay, that is actually flush against the surface or slightly inside of the gun, so it doesn't sticks out, you know. So it just looks neat. If it's too far away, it's gonna look vulgar. You see what I mean? So it needs to be a little bit inside, okay. This one, right? Was this acceptable? Yeah, this is pretty much acceptable. In fact, a little bit deeper. Something here. Somewhere here will do. So now orthographic mode. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually Alt-D it, okay? So not Shift-D, but Alt-D. This will create an instance of these screws. In addition, let's select them both and create a new new category. And let's go with screws, yeah? So they all, you know, neatly in one place. And again, Shift-D, X, and simply hold Shift and move it. And Shift-D, move it in here, make it smaller. Let's go closer here. In fact, when you make it smaller, you can press Shift-Y to scale it on every single axis except Y, and move it in here. The depth should be the same, yeah. So Alt-D, X, and move it in here with a Shift. Bob's uncle, Alt-D, snap it to this surface in here, move it inside, scale it a little bit, and G and Control and snap it, and just move it outside, GY. It's a little bit too small, so we're gonna make it bigger. Something like this. It's a little bit too much outside, so move it outside. Just make sure that it's more or less in the middle, otherwise it's gonna look weird. So Alt-D, X, and move it in here. Perfect. And now here, right? So Alt-D and Control-G. Same thing. Whoops, that's skewed. You can snap it to this one if you want. To the front, to this main panel. This is a little bit too small, so make it a tiny bit bigger. Still too small. And move it inside so it's not so, you know. You don't want it to be outside, really, it just doesn't look good. So Alt-D and move it in here. With G, move it inside. Somewhere here is fine. And then Alt-D, X, and hold Shift and align it. And Alt-D, move it in here. Alt-D and move it in here with Shift. And Alt-D. Now this one is a little bit slanted, right? But the screw is gonna go straight in, so don't align it with the surface. Simply move it in like that, and it's gonna be fine. Alright, so another one here. So Alt-D, move it in here. We can align it here and move it on top of this. It's a little bit too big, so make it a bit smaller. GY, move it inside. I think it's fine. It's a little bit too big, so make it a bit smaller. Alt-D. You need to remember that the screw needs to get in, right? So into this hole. It's gonna be too small. Has to be just right. Otherwise, it's not gonna look. It's gonna look fake. All right. So now we need these. So Alt-D. There's quite a lot of these screws. So put it in here. Make it smaller. How deep are we? That's actually a bit too deep, maybe. Alt-D. And Alt-D. Okay, now the tiny ones here, right? So Alt-D and snap it here. Where is it? Okay, and then let's grab this one here, make it smaller and move it in. It's a bit too small. I think that should do. And let's see. Yeah, the depth is fine. So Alt D and move it in here. And there's one more, right? Yeah. It's a little bit not in the middle. Okay. So these are sorted, and then we have some in the front, don't we? Yes, we do. So again, Alt D and simply snap it here. In fact, these could be actually slanted, you know. This is fine. So let's follow the surface. So Shift 7 in this case, so you can align to the surface of this geo. It's a little bit too big, right? So let's switch to individual origins, global, GZZ, and move it in. Now let's grab this one and Alt D and move it down with Control because it's easier. Let's turn Alt Z so we can actually see where it's supposed to go. That's the middle here, right? More or less. Now go to front view and Alt Z. Come on. And align to this face, so Shift 7. And move it here. What we're gonna do is mirror them, so mirror, or in fact we could just move them. Alt D and Y, and it doesn't really fit perfectly, so we need to adjust it a little bit. GY and move it in here. GZZ and move it up. Nope. Where is it? No, it actually fits. It actually fits. It's an illusion because it's angled. GY and move it in here. Sorted. So now on the top, these ones, right? So let's grab this. And G and slap it here. And let's go to local. It's going to be easier. So move it in here. Make sure you're orthographic, by the way, because perspective is a bad news. Perspective is bad news. It's a bit too big. Move it somewhere here. Now the shadow is confusing, so we might just turn it off. There we go. So to make sure it's in the middle, and Alt D and move it in here, and literally this is a little bit too. There we go, and then Alt D and Y. And Alt DX, GX, and move it a little bit to this side. Perfect, let's leave local, and now we need to select them all. So these are already selected, right? Go to side view, Alt Z, and move them down. So GZ, and literally move them down here. That's okay, they can stand out a little bit. It's fine. Alright then, and we should kind of have screws in these as well, but and now the scope, right? So grab this one and Alt D and move it in here. And make it bigger. We can turn the shadow back on, it's fine. And move it inside, so GY. Okay, and Alt DX, move it to this side. This screw is kind of hidden by this scope thing, you see. So what I'm thinking of doing is actually removing this because it kind of looks weird. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna remove it. Okay, so shift 1 and then move it here, or maybe here. Nope. Alright, fine. This one and this one, move it here. There we go. And you can remove this, and we don't have to copy this to the other side because it's already copied. This one is not necessary, and this edge really it's just pointless that long, so we can just run one in here like this and enjoy ourselves. Also, there is some problem in here, and I think it's caused by what? Run 3 in here, and in fact, let me see the modifiers. Bevel and weighted normals. What is going on here? Let's go to occlude mode. It's probably the bevel issue, you know. I think it's just too shallow. So we might actually move it in GY and move it in. There we go. Probably the same in here. Yeah, still too shallow. GY, move it in. There we go. Sorted. Alright. Now we can add some screws here. So Alt D and just hold Control and snap it. Where is it? Make it smaller and move it in here. Make it smaller still. The depth is not too bad actually. It could stay like this. It's fine. Move it somewhere in the middle. And then Alt DX and move it in here. And we need one more here, right? So Alt D and Control G and drop it in here, make it a little bit smaller and move it outside because it's too deep. And we will need to mirror later everything to the other side. But so let's see if all the screws are actually fixed. Not yet. Handle. So Alt D and move it in here. And make it a bit smaller and move it inside. Are we in the middle? Not really. Don't get confused by the shadow, it's a little bit confusing. Alt D and move it in here. And this one is bigger. For some weird reason. Probably the indentation, I mean the scaling was different, so that's not a big problem. Alright, let's see if everything is peachy. I think everything is good, and all of these should be in screws. So we can turn them on and off with one click, which is fantastic. And I think all is well. Okay guys, that's it for this video, and in next one what we're gonna do is actually we will have to revisit the entire mesh and fix it, check if everything is fine, mirror everything to the other side, and make sure that there are no shading issues before you move on to texturing. So the modeling I think is complete. So congratulations on getting so far, and I think we did a fantastic job because it looks really, really cool. That's a badass gun. That's what it is. Now really, I think we should use some screws on this one, but we could argue that you know, these are kind of like clipped in and the screws are underneath, so we don't really have to bother with it. So we should be fine. And again, some screws should be in here as well, but it's underneath, so we don't really need to bother with this one. This one is fine. I think we're good. Okay guys, well that's it for this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.